Hey everyone, Patty here. I hope you all having a great day. For us in California, it's particularly a little bit nicer today because for the last 3 or 4 days we've been having an incredible heat wave, like 100+ degrees. And for Santa Barbara in October, that's a little bit rare. But today it cooled down just a little bit, so I think everyone's a little bit more comfortable. But we got a really good earthquake today too, so that was kind of fun. So today I'm going to just talk to you a little bit about two types of turkey drawings. One really super simple guided drawing that absolutely anyone can do, and you can do it with a child who's from 4 all the way up to 6 or 7. And then I'm going to show you one of the lessons that is in my new Thanksgiving bundle, and I'm going to show you how to draw the more elaborate Thanksgiving turkey. So I'm just going to let a few people join. If you're there, say hi. I hope you're having a good day. You know, for me, it's been one of those weeks where it's been super hot outside, so I haven't been going for my walks. And I happen to have a studio now where we do all of Team Sparkle stuff, like, create our bundles for our sparklers. And the office just happens to be air conditioned. So that is just like such a lovely treat, because my house, we don't have air conditioning there. A lot of houses don't, because in Santa Barbara you tend not to get too high of temperatures. So it's been really kind of calm and pleasant. So, I've been having a good day or a good week in the studio. And we've been, if you haven't been thinking about Thanksgiving, it's coming up. Don't you find that Thanksgiving, all of a sudden, things get a little bit crazy right after Halloween? You think you have a long time until Thanksgiving, but then a lot of schools have parent-teacher conferences. That's how it was for us. As a specialist, we would not work during parent-teacher conferences, so we only had a week to do Thanksgiving projects. So I'm going to show you one of them that I used to do all the time with my little kids, mostly with kindergartners. But you can do it with first graders, and as I mentioned just a minute ago, you can do it with like a 4-year-old, so in preschool. Now I have this handout, and I included the link. Here's the handout right here. Actually, I'll show you this one, because my husband Neil, he printed it out for me so that you could see it during the mirror image, because when I've been doing these Facebook Lives, you haven't been able to see the like the reflection of the actual handout. So here it is, and it's how to draw a turkey. It's super simple. You can see this little thing here. You can almost do this just with a glass, like at the Thanksgiving table. And I included a script. So if you're a teacher who's not used to teaching art, or maybe you're a classroom teacher, or maybe you're a parent and art is not your, number one thing, you might want to use the script. Now, if you're an art teacher, you could probably just look at the pictures and figure out how to do it. But I've also included a really simple kind of a handout, a little drawing guide for you to use. So you can download this. It's in the link right away, or just above the video. And so you're welcome just to download that. Now, here's the finished product. Now, I did this. I don't have my students anymore, but on the blog you could see, about a dozen student samples, and I tell you, it's just so darn cute, these little turkeys, and the kids just paint their feathers all sorts of different colors, and it's really quite simple. I did not use watercolor paper, but I did use watercolor paint. So I'm going to talk about the paint and the paper choices after I do the directed drawings. So if you're interested in that, stick around, because I do get a lot of questions, from people who don't really know which paints are used best with watercolor paint or paper or sulfite paper. So I'm going to kind of help you match it up. So this particular project I did myself, but I'll show you the paper and the paint that I used after the drawing. So that's the first one I'm going to do, and then the second one, this is a turkey, a more realistic turkey for the older kids, like probably 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds. And the kids are really looking now to add a little bit more detail, perhaps do a little bit more with their marker. So it's not just all about the watercolors, but it's actually kind of creating texture and shading with the marker by using like dashes and stippling. So I'm going to show you, with my marker how to do this. It's not going to be as detailed as this, but this is one of the lessons in my Thanksgiving bundle, but I'm going to show you how to draw it right here today. Okay, so let's go to the cute one. At least I really think it's cute. I remember my first graders and kindergartners doing this in the classroom, and I almost died. They were just so cute. And if you click on the link, you'll be able to get the download, and you'll be able to see the gallery of what the little kindergartners did. So if you have any type of round container top, this makes your life so much easier when you're working with a kindergartner or a first grader, even a 4-year-old. Now here's the thing. Hi Melody, or Melanie, sorry, my eyes are getting bad. How are you? I'm glad you're here. So whenever I started drawing with a little kid, it helps so much, unbelievably much, when you can give them a template. This doesn't mean they're tracing the entire drawing. It just means that when you have a big sheet of paper, it's really hard to know where to start. And a little bit of a helper or a guide goes a long way in getting all of the children in your class, and you might have about 25 little 5-year-olds, getting them on the same page. So this is just a plastic container top, but you can use a yogurt container top. Even smaller is better. This is pretty big. This is like a pint-sized container. But if you have something smaller, that works fine. With most guided drawings, I like to draw the paper size on the whiteboard, so the kids have an extra resource of where to start, another reference point. And it goes like this. Now, if the kids happen to overdraw, I'm just going to move my camera here just a little bit so you guys can see. Okay, I think that's better. Okay. If they happen to draw a little bit bigger, don't ever freak out because you don't want them to freak out. Like if they don't have room for the legs, like no big deal. If they made their feathers too big and they can only see half the feathers, that's okay. So make sure that your reaction is like, that's awesome, lovely, let's move on, not a problem, because I always draw bigs and I always kind of try to make a few mistakes so the kids will see that I don't react to them. Okay, so you start about the middle of the paper. You have to remember, this is the head, and you need a body and you need the legs. So starting around the middle, and you just trace it. I like using oil pastels. You all know that if you've been following Deep Space Sparkle. It just encourages children to draw very big. But if you have a crayon at home, that is perfectly fine. So you can either use black or you can use lots of different colors. I think in the lesson on my blog, we used all sorts of different colors. Then, here's the fun part. We're starting to get into the really quick details. A nose, a triangle that's upside down. 2 dots for the eyes, moving along well. This is the wattle part, just like a W, just like that. Now, can you see how big the head is? Can you see the wattle? Can you see where the problem's going to be? I've already run out of room. So if this was a child, don't worry about it. You're going to ask them to put their oil pastel or their crayon on the side of the face and make a nice big body. As big as you want that turkey's body to be. Now, I ran out of room, so for the purpose to help you guys out, I'm going to lengthen it. But if you were to do this with your students, don't do that. Just say, oh, well, here's how to draw the legs, but my legs are going to get cut off and no big deal. So what I like to do is just to draw 2 straight lines, here and here, and there and there. So if children are having a hard time, and if one child is having a hard time, you can kind of remember these are 4-year-olds, these are 5-year-olds. Here's a handy trick. If you can have them draw the leg as long as their finger and as wide as their finger, in fact, if they want to trace their finger, that really makes a really good leg. So see how my finger just fits in? So they would just kind of put their little hand down and just trace their little finger. It works, especially for a little kid. Then it's just really a little tiny claw, so like a W. There's all sorts of ways to really simplify the feet because claws are a little bit scary. You can do something like just make a little circle. You can just do a triangle. You can do something that looks like this. you know, whatever you want. It's not that important, and they're probably going to get cut off anyways. Okay, so now you can draw a little wing here and here. What I didn't do before, when I did this lesson with my kindergartners, I went directly and drew the lines for the feathers. But I want to give you an extra step. This is not in the handout, but I think this extra step is really helpful, especially for an older kid who is familiar with the drawing of a turkey, or at least they've seen it around. And because the turkey has this, they have that little crown around the body. So on the good one, you can kind of see there's the body, and then here is the little, kind of like the first set of feathers. So you can add that. I think for the kids who are like the realists in the group, and you're going to have some for sure, you know, it's nice to point that out. I'm kind of sad that I didn't do it because mine looks more like a peacock. So now, but it's all on how you color it, so just remember that. Now for the feathers, this is really the most fun part. And it's an opportunity for you to go a little bit beyond realistic and have some fun with patterns. So if you want to incorporate some A-B patterns or any kind of lines, or talk about lines in terms of shapes like circles or curvy lines, this is a great place to add them. So to start off the feathers, you just draw a series of lines. The first one being the one in the middle. And you want the children to go around, so to radiate their lines around their turkey head. And if they want to go right off the edge of the paper onto their placemat, that's fine. Just like that. Now here's the fun part. Tell them to put their oil pastel on the top of their feather and draw a curved line all the way down to the head. And do the very same thing on the other side. And stop when you reach that first layer of feathers. Then go to the next line and draw curved lines like a belly, and stop when you get to the secondary feathers. And then just keep on going. This is it's a simple drawing, but there are a lot of great skills in it. Number one, you want to teach children to kind of start at the end of the line. So you want to connect the marker line to the very tip. So in other words, you're not going to start like that. And you really kind of hit this point home with the kids. Start and then stop when the other line shows up. So it really helps kids, you know, be a little bit more kind of like neat with their work and connect the lines and create a full shape. And we're going to just continue. Okay, that's it. Now, when I talked about the patterns, you can do all sorts of different things. You can have like zigzags. You can do a herringbone, which is like pretty traditional for the feathers. But some kids might want to put polka dots. This just gives the like turkey just a little extra pizzazz. So you can do whatever you want. Now if you have any time left over, take an oil pastel, maybe something light, and just do little lines for the feathers. If you have a little extra time, take an oil pastel, something yellow or something orange, and make the little lines across the legs. Just like that. And that's how you draw the cute little turkey. I just love that drawing, and I love when the kids do it, you're just going to die. Okay, so I want to show you what type of paints I use. Now, number one, okay, so here are some liquid watercolors. Now, I know this is Facebook Live, and it's really hard to kind of demo paints. I haven't tried it yet, but I might. I don't know how yet. So these are liquid watercolors, and that's what my children used, my students, when I did this in the classroom. So you can see, here, let me just get this one. You can see that little sample right there, that little turkey guy? That was done on regular sulfite paper. Sulfite paper is white drawing paper, just a 12-inch by 18-inch, plain paper. It's smooth though. And then we just used the liquid watercolors to paint it. Now here's the thing, when you use these liquid watercolors on sulfite paper, it will soak into the paper, but don't worry about it. It's just a turkey, and it actually resists the oil pastel well enough. The trick is to make sure you have a big enough brush. Because the watercolor soaks into the paper, that means it doesn't spread. So you kind of have, the children have to have these close to them so they can go back and forth. If you did use watercolor paper, then these liquid watercolor paints will spread so much easier, and you won't actually need to use as much. Sometimes when you use liquid watercolor on sulfite paper, you tend to use more than you actually need. So that's one option. That's the option I used. I'm still here, I'm just bending. Okay, so another option for you guys, hope you can see this. This is puck tempera cakes. So tempera paint is usually seen in art rooms in the liquid form, but these are little cakes. They're huge, right? Look, I can take it out. It looks like a hockey puck. So that's why some people call them pucks. They're just little cakes of dry paint. Now here's the thing. Imagine being in a classroom and you have 30, first graders coming in, and you have 2 minutes to prep. How easy is it to put this thing on the table when the other class, or when the class comes in? Just to place it there. You don't have to mix paints. You don't have to do anything fancy with the palettes. You don't have to make a decision about how much paint to mix or to add water. You just put this on the table, and when the kids leave, you take them off the table. Or you have the kids take them off the table, even better. And so these are magnificent if you're a busy teacher. I know a lot of our teachers out there are super busy, right? You don't have a lot of time in between classes. Now, I happen to have the luxurious amount of time. I had 10 minutes between my classes. It felt like an eternity, really. And so I had more time to do the prep. So the liquid or the puck tempera cakes are fantastic. Now what they do, I used the puck tempera cakes. Oh, I knew I was going to do that. Hold on. For this painting. So this is the painting I did myself. I'm fabulous on. And this is using the puck tempera. So you can see that the colors are super rich. I'm going to set this down, it's getting heavy. It's super rich, and I don't know if you can hear this. The only drawback is that it's kind of chalky. So it doesn't dry to a luxurious finish like acrylic paints or even some liquid tempera paints. And it's not as vibrant as liquid watercolors on watercolor paper. But you know what? It's pretty darn good. And when you're doing a drawing, when you have the white paper and you want lots of color, but you don't want the paint to cover over the oil pastel, then the cake tempera paints are fantastic to use. So, you can still see all of the little details. Here's some little yellow oil pastel, and you can see how the colors can be as light or as dark. So I encourage you to try the puck tempera paints in your classroom because they're just so good, so easy. Okay, so I'm going to move on, and I'm going to show you how to do like the big turkey, the older kids turkey. So do you have any questions before I get started? Hey June, Montserrat, nice to see you here. So she said, I'm trying to make this cute turkey with my young library patrons. In the library, I wonder? So then you know what, cake tempera paints or even watercolor paints in the trays are a really good option. I often wonder how librarians do art in the library, because I have a lot of librarians that ask me questions about that, and I'm like, well, do you even do art in the library? And a lot do, so that's fantastic. Okay, I don't think there's any questions, so I'm going to move on. I'm going to erase this little guy. So if you're a sparkler, you have already received this handout. It's in the Thanksgiving bundle. So there are 4 lessons inside the Thanksgiving bundle. It was like a little treat for you guys. And one of them was a watercolor turkey. So you can see this. This is one of the handouts inside the turkey watercolor. Oh, I'm glad, Lauren. You should definitely try this. I can't wait to see the results. Make sure if you do these lessons, I'd love to see how they turn out for you. So you can post them back into the Deep Space Sparkle fan page, or you can do it in a group if you're a sparkler, post them there, or even if you're in the free Facebook group, I would love to see them. You can post as many pictures of your art there as well. So this particular handout, you know, is available to sparklers, but if you're not a sparkler, you can get this in the Deep Space Sparkle shop. So it's really inexpensive, and there's 4 lessons in the Thanksgiving bundle, but I'm going to show you how to do this one. So I'm really thankful to Neil because he kind of reverse printed this. Not that it was difficult to find out, but it just never occurred to me to do it. So the instructions are fairly detailed, and they're detailed because the drawing's a little bit more detailed. Ellen has a frustration with tempera cakes. The water needs to be changed frequently. Yes, it does. I noticed that too. But just because it looks muddy doesn't mean the artwork is going to be horrible. So the kids when I was teaching in the classroom, the water had to be black before I changed it, just because it just created too much chaos. So it does get a little bit muddier than other paints, especially watercolor paints. So I totally understand your frustration, Ellen. My only suggestion for you, use a bigger container. I think I have a couple of art teacher friends who use dog dishes, you know, because like they're stacked like this, and the children can't tip them over, and they hold a bunch of water. So you might want to just try a bigger vessel to hold the water. Okay, so now I'm going to do the older version. It's going to take a little bit more concentration from me, so I might have my back to you a little bit more, because, you know, I have to think about these things. Okay, so don't worry, I got this. Okay, so we're going to draw this little guy. You can see it, and like all my directed drawings. Now here's the thing about directed drawings. When you get to the older students, 9, 10, 11, 12, you don't have to give them a directed drawing. You don't have to tell them, okay, this is what we're going to do first, and this is what we're going to do second. Nuh-uh. What you want to do is on the whiteboard, no, that's too small. I know I draw big. Okay, there we go. On the whiteboard, what you want to do is give a drawing demonstration. This is how you start the turkey. This is what you might think about doing next. This is how you can make your body this big or this big. Here are a couple of pictures of turkeys that you can look and kind of model your own turkey after. So you want to give about a 7-minute demonstration, but you don't necessarily have to walk them through it because they can handle it at this age. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is the placement of the eye. If they put the eye in the middle of the picture, they will either have a very small turkey or they will not have their whole turkey fitting into the paper. So it's really important that you kind of visually map out your paper into kind of quadrants. So upper left, upper right, lower left, lower right. And you can use that technique on a frequent basis, and they'll get used to it. So in the upper left-hand quadrant, I like to draw the eye, and a little bit lower, maybe about here. So it's a dot with like a little kind of a curve on top. The next thing you want to do is do the beak. Whenever I'm doing any kind of bird, parrot, tropical bird, whatever, like a side profile bird, I do the eye first, and then in front of the eye is the beak. And it's like a perpendicular line. But in this case, we're going to make it a little indented, just like that. And then you want to make the inside line as long as you want the beak to be long. So I did the indent, the front, and then the beak, and then I'm going to curve it. So there you go. Can you see that okay? Then the next thing you want to do is draw the head and the wattle and the chest area all in one go. It looks like, here, I'll hold this up. It just kind of looks like a sock that's kind of on the floor of your son's bedroom. You know, just kind of one of those things that just goes up and come down. Just wobbly lines. If the kids are nervous and they're, you know, drawing lines that are just kind of wobbly, awesome, because it's a turkey neck. It's very ugly. I mean, really, right? They're very ugly. Okay. If they make a mistake like me and they wanted to add more lines, they can, because we can just add a little kind of wrinkles into the neck. Okay, so the next part is you could draw the body, but I think because the wing kind of goes over the body, you want to train the kids to think about this. And this is why a drawing is so good for just children to think about things, think about the order. And for me, if I'm looking at a picture and I have a marker, I don't have a pencil, I want to draw the thing that's in the front first. So the little wing goes out like this and then down. So it's kind of like a hockey stick or a sock. I'm into socks today. And then just make some bumps, just like that. Now this is where they can kind of add a little bit of detail. They want to add some feathers, and the feathers kind of go out like this. And then you want to join them up. And then do another layer. Now we're going to go back and add more detail to those in just a minute. Okay, so the next step is to do the body. When you want to do a body, it helps to go a little bit slower. It's the simplest of lines, but you want to make sure that the bottom body is kind of matching the back. So if I start back here, right around where the head curves, you want to go around, bumpy lines, down, jump over the wing. When I get to about there, I usually tell the kids to stop, because I want them to go back over here and make sure they line that up and make sure they get a nice big butterball turkey belly. Okay, so I think we're good so far. Now we're going to do these little things that I always forget to do with the little kids, which is that secondary wing set. It probably has a name, but I don't know what it is. And all it is to start with, get children used to just drawing lines and then connecting the lines with a shape. I should say connecting the lines with another line. So here's the line, and then it kind of goes up, over, and down. Up, over, and down. Now, here's the thing. Different turkeys have a different shaped feather back there. So if you have a resource book, then you might see that there's lots of different types of feathers, and some turkeys don't really show those feathers off very well. So for an older kid, if you're doing middle school, I would get some pictures, some photographs of some turkeys, and have the children draw the turkey that they like most. It could be a wild turkey, it could be a heritage breed turkey, you know, whatever you kind of have in your arsenal as resources. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. You want to now draw the wings. So this is different. You're not just drawing the feathers sticking up like we did with the kindergarten and the first graders. You're kind of making it more intentional. One thing that really helps, if you are doing this with a pencil, to kind of go really lightly around the turkey to kind of get the maximum height of the turkey feathers. So now I'm going to do this. I'm going to take my lines and I'm just going to move them up. I find it's helpful, I don't know if you can see this, but to place your line very, solidly on the area that you want to start, and then kind of move up and let the pen kind of do the effort, do the work for you. That way you get a nice curve. Otherwise the curve can be just a little bit forced. I don't know if that helps. Okay. Now we're going to just add a little shape to those feathers, and then we'll be ready to decorate them. Okay, still with me, everyone? Okay, sometimes I feel like I'm just talking to myself because I just see me. And it's a long day. It's mostly just me and Neil in the office and Shannon, and we have a new girl starting. That's really exciting. So we'll have someone else to look at, someone else to talk to. So I'm glad you're here. Thanks for showing up. Okay, so here are the feathers. And what we're going to do now is leave those feathers alone and just get the legs in. I want to make sure you guys can see the legs. The legs are the hardest thing for kids to do. They were the hardest thing for me to do. I did kind of give you an idea in this handout that you want to draw the chicken or the turkey leg and then 3 lines. So it's the 3 lines that we're going to turn into the claw. So like all birds, the lines for the feet or the legs, they kind of go on an angle. And you want to have 1 line this way, 1 line this way, and 1 in the middle. So just like that. Then you want to start at the front toe and make a wobbly line. And then the middle toe, a wobbly line, and then a nice little wobbly line in here. Because the turkey legs, they have that flat, bony part, but then underneath it's kind of ridged. So that's what you want to kind of get the kids used to drawing. It's actually not an easy thing to draw, but if you have real pictures, they tend to do a little bit better. And then this one, I'm just going to do the same. Just like that. Okay, now let's kind of decorate this guy up, add all the details. The first thing that you can do is kind of go back to the head, and you can add little wrinkles. And the lines are just, it's like a wavy line, short wavy lines. You can draw a wattle on over here. I don't really get that. I don't know what that is. But all turkeys have this, like this skin, this loose skin that kind of folds over their little beak. So you can do that. You can add some little stippling if you want to, and some just along the sides. The best way to best place to add those little stipplings, the little short mark, hatch marks, are kind of right along the edges of things. Just like that. Okay, then the wings, keep it simple. But here's where you can add a little bit more detail. So those are just a series of kind of hash marks or lines, straight lines. And you can see, I'm not really sure if you can see it super well. And then you would repeat that if you want to, or you can do a different pattern. Like I said, there's so many different types of turkeys. And there's different patterns and different feather shapes for different turkeys. I was actually surprised. I thought they all looked the same. Maybe that's because I only ate, the certain ones. But this is more of like a wild turkey. Okay, now back up here. That same thing. You want those lines that are really close together. This is such an excellent practice for kids to learn how to create detail. It also gets them to draw a little bit faster than they normally would, so it's not as calculated. They don't have to really think about those lines. They just kind of have to sketch them out. Just like that. And then the rest of the details can mostly come with the paint. And in the lesson, I show you how you add the wet paint over the dry paint to add all of the feather details. That looks really cool with watercolor paints. So you could add some marker lines to show the fluffiness of the bird. And you can also add, if you can see this, just those tiny little hash marks or those lines right here. Now, how does that look? Okay, I'm not as embarrassed as I thought I was going to be. I think he looks pretty good. So I hope you try that. Do you guys have any questions about these little birds? Oh, Gloria, aren't you clever? Gloria says that thing is called a snood. Snood? Snood. Snood? Okay. I didn't know that. Thank you, Gloria. It's actually interesting when you learn the parts of an animal. There's all sorts of names for, animals, like a female pig and a male pig, and it's just really kind of fun. Yeah, so she says it's like flued. Okay. So yeah, Delaney, would you have the students draw with a pencil and then a marker? This is a preference it's a great question. This is a preference for an art teacher. Here's the thing with pencils. If you want children to take a long time with this drawing, and if you want them to be as realistic as possible, definitely start with pencil. But if you're working with, and maybe that could be like a 13, 14, 15-year-old, but if you're working with a 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old, you might not have a whole lot of time for your class. And the children might not have a lot of patience to complete the drawing. So my suggestion, if you must use pencil, to just do it on a very limited scope. Like pencil in where the eye is going to be, pencil in very lightly the neck and then the body, and then you know what? I would take the pencils away. That would be like a kind of like a happy medium for me. And I used to do a lot of projects with my 5th and 6th graders where we would start with pencil, but only to a point. They were never allowed to add detail with pencils. Because once children start adding details with pencils for the legs and these little lines for the wings and the feathers, it's just going to take a long time. And then if they paint, they usually paint over the pencil lines. So my strategy is this. You can teach children to draw this with a Sharpie marker and a watercolor paper. But if that's frightening to you, and it's okay if it is, just do pencil for 3 things: the eye, the head placement, and the body. The eye, so here I'm going to outline it in blue. So this would be what I would do in pencil. The eye, I guess the beak because it's all in one. The head and the neck, and then this line for the body. And they can draw the body, and then they can have the wing go right over it. So hopefully that answers your question. One thing that I loved to do when I was a teacher is to teach kids to be completely fearless with their mediums, and to teach them that it's okay to make a mistake with an oil pastel. We start in kindergarten doing that. And so by the time they get to 5th grade and 6th grade, giving them a piece of watercolor paper and a Sharpie, they didn't blink. They just said, okay, show me what to do and show me my options. And I would do these types of drawings, and then I would have pictures for them, and then they could kind of decide how they wanted to look. And of course some kids are going to have the turkey running and the feathers are going to be going like this, but they had the basis and they knew kind of what to do. So Monica says, I work with kids from pre-K through 4th grade. Would a Sharpie work for older students? Definitely 4th grade. Yeah. So oil pastel or crayon for the pre-K? Absolutely, like 100%. And do you know why? It's because with an oil pastel and a chunky crayon, they're going to naturally draw big. If you give a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old a pencil, they're going to come down to that paper and they're going to draw the smallest little turkey, and then they won't have any chance to paint that because it'll be so small and there's no paintbrush that will fit into a drawing that is that small. So definitely an oil pastel. But I like the Sharpie for the older kids because if you did watercolors, you have so much more opportunity to add detail. So hopefully that helps. Oh, good, Mary. I'm glad. Mary, what grade are you going to do it with? Are you doing the older turkey or the younger turkey? I'm curious about that. While you answer that, I want to show you that these are the paints I use for my older kids. They are the Crayola watercolor. Oh, Mary, yeah, K2. So, Mary, you're going to be doing the cute one. That's great. I can't wait to see how it turns out. Yeah, you know, Tricia, 5-year-olds definitely love Sharpies. Absolutely. But I don't know. There's some projects that I think are better than others. The thing I like about oil pastels for the turkey is that they can use all sorts of different colors to decorate their feathers. But here's something to try. Do the Sharpie as the, for the overall picture or the outline of the turkey, and then use the oil pastels to make the patterns. That would be fun too. Okay, so I use Crayola watercolor paints in my classroom, and these are the ones that you can remove the little things. So if you run out of green, you can replace them. They're really inexpensive, and that's what I used for this. Now you don't have to use liquid watercolor. When you're teaching older children how to draw, you definitely like to use the cake because there's so many opportunities for color mixing where it's a little bit less with liquid. So Monica says, I'm going to do both the younger and older turkey. Yes, nice job, Monica. I like you. November project, good. So make sure that you post your results. I want to see those. That'll be fun. Here's a type of paints. A lot of my sparklers are familiar with these, or if you've ever come to my summer workshop, these are the Faber-Castell watercolor paints. These are more similar to the Puck tempera paints than they are to watercolor, just because they're a little bit more opaque. So they're a wonderful, beautiful palette, and these work really well, especially for older kids and mixing. But they do dry to a more chalky finish than the Crayolas. The Crayolas are a little bit more translucent. And then another option that I have grown to absolutely love, I think it's probably my favorite Faber-Castell product, that these are, they're basically like the watercolors, but they're like cake temperas, but they come apart. See? Do you know the benefits of that? It wasn't obvious to me. But you can remove colors. So this is actually white. No, this is white. You can remove white and you can remove the black if you don't want your kids to use those colors. Or if you're doing a project where you really want them to use warm colors, then you can take just the warm colors out. I mean, it's kind of a brilliant thing. They're a little bit harder to prep for a bigger class, like getting those little things in and out. But if you had, older kids helping you, not a problem, right? So that's all about the paints. And if you guys don't have any more questions, I will sign off really soon. But if you do, pop up some questions and I'm happy to answer them for you. Keep on saying, don't mean to. I have a big thing coming up next week. So if you're still sticking around, this is exciting. And I'm going to be starting to let everyone know, like make these big announcements. But Deep Space Sparkle is going to be 10 years old next week. 10. I started the blog 10 years ago. My first post was November 2007. I don't know how that happened. So Neil and I and Team Sparkle, we're having a big celebration from November 2nd through to November 6th, which is a Thursday through to Monday. I know, weird. That's when I posted for the first time, so I want to keep it, in sync. We're giving away products every day. We have like prizes, and I'm doing a video every day on kind of my Deep Space Sparkle story and how I went from like an art volunteer to an art teacher and how you can do that. I'm going to do a video on how I started my business and how I grew my business, so if there's anyone who's interested in that, there's going to be something for everybody. And I have like a grand prize. I'm giving away like a ticket for my summer workshop with food and lodging. And I'm giving away like a business consultation with me, which I've never done before. I have never, ever, ever talked about my business like to someone else in Deep Space Sparkle land. And we're giving away 10 membership passes for 3 months to 10 people. We don't have enrollment to the Sparklers until January. We're giving away 10 of them. So for 10 lucky people, you're going to be able to pop in, become a sparkler for 3 months. I mean, it's amazing. And I have new products. So you're going to have the opportunity I'm going to ask my sparklers to vote on their top 3 favorite bundles inside the Sparklers Club. And then I'm going to take those bundles and make them available for a 1-week period to people who aren't in the membership. So I think it's just kind of fun. We're just going to have a good time, just kind of reminiscing about my first awful post and kind of just how it's evolved. And I've just been so happy teaching art and living in this world. It's just been the most happy I've ever been in my life, really, to connect with people who do what I love to do most, which is teach art with kids. So you'll be seeing that if you're on my newsletter list, or if you're hanging out my site or on Facebook. It's all going to be hosted here on the Deep Space Sparkle Facebook page. So, you'll get lots of opportunities. Oh, thanks, Mary. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Jane. Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'll send like a little calendar, so I'll tell you what's going to be on sale. And I'm talking like really low prices because I want everyone to celebrate with me. I'm kind of selfish that way. So I'll send that out next week, and you should be getting the information. And if you haven't gotten anything, just email Deep Space Sparkle. We'll totally help you out. Shannon's right here. She's here every day. She'd love to talk to you, and she'd love to send you an email. Okay, have a great day, everyone. I'm so happy that you hung out with me today. You just made my day. It's time to go home now. I think it's cool enough to go for a walk, so that's what I'm going to do. Walk along the beach and kind of just feel grateful for everything that I have and just hanging out with you guys. So I hope you can do the same. So take care, everyone. Oh, sorry, Gina has a question. What if you're already a sparkler? There's tons of stuff for everybody. So if you're already a sparkler, you already get tons of goodness. You know that I kind of give you everything, but there will be other things as well. Nicole's, the summer workshop, I literally told Shannon, sorry for hanging on guys, but I literally told Shannon, we have got to pin down this date. It's tentatively booked for like the 9th, 10th, and 11th of August, but we're hoping for a July date because we know that a lot of teachers might be back in school, but that's tentatively when it's going to be. And I'm hoping that it works out for most people. We don't get a choice. Like if we want to have our workshop at the beautiful UCSB campus, then we're kind of subjected to what they have available, and they're like a busy institution. We're kind of lucky to be able to be in there, so we'll let everyone know really, really soon, like hopefully this week. Okay, everyone, thank you and have a great day.